It's very important now for modern HATAL investigations to sample the entire trench, various depths, and various different kinds of habitats within this place. The next World War will not start in the sky or on land. It is going to start 7 miles beneath the surface of the ocean. For decades, we thought the Mariana Trench was just a dark, empty hole. We were wrong. A recent deep-sea mission just brought something back from the bottom that changes everything. Nobody thought the ocean was this deep. So all of a sudden, we've got scientists saying, why is that? It is not just a new fish or a strange rock. It is a biological key that could unlock eternal life and infinite energy. But there is a catch. Only one nation can control it, and the race to claim this deep-sea prize has already turned deadly silent. The secret in the sediment. We usually think of the ocean as a blue, happy place where dolphins swim and coral reefs grow, but that is just the skin of the beast. If you want to see where the real story is happening, you have to go down, way down. We are talking about the Challenger, deeper scar in the Earth's crust that drops nearly 7 miles into the abyss. To put that in perspective, you could take Mount Everest, drop it in the hole, and still have over a mile of water swimming over the peak. For a long time, we thought this place was dead. It is pitch black, freezing cold, and the pressure is over 1,000 times stronger than what you are feeling right now. It is enough to snap a human body like a twig. But recently a mission called the Mir Project decided to take a closer look. They sent a state-of-the-art submersible called the Fendria down into the dark. This was not a sightseeing trip, it was a heist. The submersible acted like a deep-sea vacuum cleaner. It stayed down there, groaning under the weight of the ocean, and sucked up huge amounts of sediment from the floor. When the scientists got that mud back to the lab, they expected to find rocks and maybe some dead bacteria. Instead, they found a hidden universe. The samples contained over 7,000 different types of microbes. But here is the crazy part. 90% of them were completely new to science. We had never seen them before. It was like finding an alien planet right here on Earth, but it was not just that they existed. It was what they were doing that freaked everyone out. These tiny organisms were thriving in conditions that should have obliterated them. They were eating toxic chemicals for breakfast. They were surviving pressure that breaks steel. It turns out these microbes have a superpower. They have a biological shield that repairs their DNA the second it gets damaged. Think about that for a second. In our world, damage leads to aging and death. Down there, these things just fix themselves and keep going. This discovery is not just a cool fact for a textbook, it is a blueprint. If we can figure out how they do it, we are looking at a revolution that makes the discovery of electricity look small, but there is a problem. You cannot just go down there with a bucket and scoop this stuff up. It is technically the most difficult environment on the planet to access, and yet one nation has already mapped it out better than anyone else. While the rest of the world was distracted by politics on the surface, this mission collected 15 times more data than any previous deep-sea attempt. They did not just find bugs, they found the code to biological immortality, and now that we know it is down there, the race is on to see who can exploit it. First, the ocean floor is no longer a wilderness. It is a battlefield. And the first weapon in this war is not a gun, but a microscope. But biology is only half the story, because buried next to those microbes is something that could destroy the economy. The gold rush in the dark. So we have these super microbes that could change medicine. That is huge, but nations do not usually spend billions of dollars just to cure diseases. They do it for power and energy. And right next to those biological wonders, the floor of the Mariana Trench is littered with something that looks like dirty potatoes. These are called polytalic nodules. They look like boring rocks, but crack one open and you are looking at the future of technology. They are packed with cobalt, nickel, copper and manganese. If you own an electric car, a smartphone or a laptop, you need these metals right now. Getting these materials on land is a nightmare. It is dirty, expensive, and the mines are running dry. But down there in the dark, there are trillions of dollars worth of these nodules just sitting on top of the mud waiting to be picked up. The country that controls these deep-sea fields controls the global battery market. And in the 21st century, batteries are the new oil. But here is the catch. It is not just about batteries. There is another resource down there called fire ice. Its scientific name is methane hydrate. It looks like white frozen slush, but if you bring it to the surface and hold a match to it, it burns. It is a super concentrated fuel source. Some estimates say there is more energy trapped in this fire ice than in all the oil and gas reserves on the planet combined. Imagine that. a nearly infinite power source, sitting at the bottom of the ocean. It sounds like a dream come true, right? Well, not exactly. Trying to get this stuff out is like playing roulette with a loaded gun. The seafloor is unstable. If you start drilling and dredging to grab the fire ice, you could trigger massive underwater landslides, and that is not even the worst-case scenario. If we disturb these deposits the wrong way, we could release massive plumes of methane gas. Methane is a greenhouse gas that is 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. If a methane burp releases from the trench, it would shoot up through the water and hit the atmosphere, accelerating climate change overnight. We are talking about a climate bomb that could go off if a mining drill hits the wrong spot. Yet despite the risk, the machinery is already being built. Giant robotic harvesters that look like underwater bulldozers are being designed to crawl across the bottom of the world. They are going to scrape the bottom to feed the hunger of our tech industry. This is where the tension explodes. Who owns the bottom of the ocean? Technically, it is international waters. But in reality, it belongs to whoever has the tech to get there and the military to defend it. We are seeing a new gold rush, but instead of pickaxes and mules, we are using nuclear, submarines and AI robots. The stakes are so high that traditional alliances are starting to crack. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. But while they are fighting over the rocks and the gas, they are ignoring the biggest discovery of all, the one that deals with the very fabric of life. The rocks power our phones, but what scientists found inside the cells of the trench creatures could power us forever. Why Big Pharma wants the abyss? Let's go back to those microbes for a minute, because the implications are actually terrifyingly awesome. Remember how I said they fix their own DNA? Let's break down what that actually means for you and me. On the surface, our cells are constantly under attack. The sun, pollution, and just the act of living damage our DNA. Over time, our bodies get bad at fixing that damage. That is what aging is. That is why we get wrinkles, why our organs fail, and why we eventually die. But down in the trench, life plays by different rules. The pressure is so intense that it should literally tear the DNA molecules apart, but it doesn't. These organisms have evolved a supercharged repair kit. They have enzymes and proteins that act like an elite construction crew, patching up cracks in their genetic code instantly. Biotechs and pharmaceutical companies are looking at this and seeing dollar signs. If we can harvest those enzymes and adapt them for humans, we could theoretically stop cells from deteriorating. We are talking about treatments that could prevent cancer from ever taking hold. We are talking about slowing down the aging process to a crawl. It sounds like science fiction, but the blueprint is already there. And it is not just about medicine. This touches on industry too. The creatures down there have soft bodies like the Hadal snailfish. It looks like a ghost tadpole. It has no hard bones because bones would snap under the pressure. Instead, its body is full of a special molecule that stops its cells from collapsing. Engineers are studying this to create new materials. Imagine a submarine hull or a spacecraft that mimics the structure of a deep-sea fish. Flexible, self-reaping, and impossible to crush. The military applications are endless. You could build drones that can dive deeper than radar can track and sit there for months, powered by the environment itself. This is why the data from the MIR project was such a big deal. When they released some of that genetic information, it was like handing out a treasure map. Now, labs all over the world are trying to synthesize these proteins. But this brings up a massive ethical question. If one country cracks the code to anti-aging or super materials using resources from international waters, do they share it or do they keep it for themselves? History tells us they will keep it. And that is why the presence in the region is ramping up. It is not just about exploration anymore, it is about occupation. We are seeing a shift from let's go look to let's go stay. And the plans for the future are absolutely wild. They are done just visiting the bottom. Now, one superpower is building a permanent base to live there. The new Cold War is wet. We are witnessing the construction of a new kind of empire. For the last 50 years, the United States has been the dominant force in the Pacific. But the game has changed. The approach to the Mariana Trench has split into two very different strategies. On one side, you have the United States. Their approach has largely been about conservation and mapping. They declared the trench a national monument. They send ships like the Okeanos Explorer to map the floor and stream the video to the public. It is open, scientific, and transparent. They want to protect the area and understand it before we ruin it. It is the moral high ground. But then you have the other side. China is taking a much more aggressive industrial approach. They are not just mapping, they are planning to move in. Reports indicate plans for a deep-sea station. Think of it like the International Space Station, but sitting thousands of feet underwater. The concept is a permanent base where crews can live for weeks at a time conducting research and mining tests. This isn't just a drawing on a napkin. Components are already being developed. And they are not relying on humans alone. The strategy involves swarms of AI-driven robotic gliders. Instead of sending one big expensive submarine, you send hundreds of small cheap drones. They talk to each other. They map the terrain and they hunt for resources. If one breaks, it does not matter. You have 99 more. This is a strategic nightmare for rival nations. If a country has a permanent acoustic sensor network and a drone swarm in the deep ocean, they can hear everything. They can track every submarine, every ship, and every movement in the Pacific. The Mariana Trench becomes a listening post for half the globe. This is the new Cold War. It is quiet, it is dark, and it is happening under extreme pressure. The nation that masters the technology to operate down there wins the century. It is about who has the best materials, the best AI, and the best batteries. And guess where the materials for those batteries are? Right there on the seafloor. It is a self-feeding loop. You need the trench to build the tech to master the trench. But while the superpowers are staring at each other through periscopes, there is something else going on down there that nobody is talking about. Something that connects the bottom of our ocean to the darkest corners of outer space. The trench isn't just a mine. It is a training ground for the most ambitious mission in human history. The final frontier is here. Here is where things get cosmic. NASA is watching these deep-sea discoveries just as closely as the military, perhaps even more so. Why? Because the Mariana Trench is the closest thing we have to an alien world without leaving our own gravity. Well, we are actively planning missions to Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon Enceladus. Both of these celestial bodies are encased in miles of ice. But beneath that frozen crust, we are almost certain there are massive churning liquid oceans. And in those oceans, there is no sunlight. There is only pressure, chemical heat, and darkness. If life exists there, it has to look exactly like the life we just found in the Mariana Trench. The microbes eating pure chemicals, the fish surviving crushing pressure that would flatten a tank. That is the absolute template for extraterrestrial life. By studying the creatures in the trench, we are learning how to hunt for aliens. The robots being tested in the Pacific today are the prototypes for the bots that will swim on Europa in 20 years. But to limit our imagination to just microbes might be our biggest mistake. This leads us to the shadow biosphere theory. For decades, biology has assumed all life on Earth shares a common ancestry, the same DNA structure. But the trench challenges that arrogance. What if there is a second genesis of life down there? Life that doesn't use DNA as we know it, or life that thrives on arsenic or silicon rather than carbon. Some theorists suggest that the bizarre gelatinous structures seen by deep-sea rovers aren't just animals, but biological colonies operating on a completely different evolutionary tree. We might be looking for little green men in the sky while an entirely different sentient biology has been swimming beneath our feet for 4 billion years. And then there is the sound. The ocean is not silent. It is a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and roars. But in the deep, there are sounds that defy explanation. In the late 90s, NOAA recorded the bloop, an ultra-low frequency sound so powerful it was heard by sensors thousands of miles apart. Scientists eventually claimed it was an ice quake, but the acoustic signature was terrifyingly organic. This brings us to one of the wilder, more unsettling theories that the trench isn't just a habitat, but a hiding place. Cryptozoologists and fringe oceanographers have long speculated that the pressure of the deep acts as a shield. We assume prehistoric giants, the megalodons, or even older unnamed leviathans died out eons ago. But in an ecosystem that hasn't changed in 100 million years, why would they die? The abyssal gigantism phenomenon is real. Squids grow to the size of school buses down there. It is not a stretch to imagine that truly massive apex predators migrated into the crushing dark to escape the extinction events that wiped out surface life. They could be down there right now, moving slowly through the slurry unseen by our tiny spotlights, listening to our propellers. But if it's not monsters, it might be something arguably worse. Us. The connection to the stars brings us back to a sad, militaristic reality on Earth. While NASA looks for biology, the Pentagon looks for invisibility. The Wild West of the ocean floor is the perfect place to hide the ultimate doomsday device. There are theories that the major superpowers aren't just mapping the floor for mining. They are building autonomous unmanned stations. If you can hide a nuclear drone in a trench 6 miles deep, you have a second strike capability that no satellite can detect and no torpedo can reach. The glitches in sonar and the strange metallic shadows seen on deep-sea scanners might not be geography. They might be forward operating bases for a war that hasn't started yet. This rush to militarize and monetize brings us to the most dangerous aspect of the deep, the biological Pandora's box. We are looking for pristine life, but we might have already ruined it. In one of the deepest dives ever recorded, a robotic lander touched down in the Challenger Deep. It was a moment of triumph. But when the cameras turned on, do you know what they saw? A beer bottle. Even deeper, they found a plastic bag. We have turned the most remote place on the planet into a garbage can before we even finished exploring it. Microplastics have been found inside the stomachs of the amphipods living down. These creatures have survived meteors and ice ages, but they are choking on our trash. However, the pollution might trigger a backlash we aren't ready for. The sediment at the bottom of the trench is a time capsule. It contains bacteria and viruses that have been dormant for millions of years, pathogens that modern surface life has no immunity against. As we dredge the bottom for manganese nodules and drill into the crust for fire ice methane hydrate, we aren't just disturbing the dirt, we are waking the dead. There is a very real non-zero chance that the next global pandemic won't come from a wet market or a lab, but will be dredged up from the abyss, attached to the hull of a mining ship. This is the double-edged sword. We have the technology to find miracles down there. Cures for cancer derived from the unique proteins of pedophiles, infinite energy from methane reserves, keys to the universe. But that same technology allows us to pollute and destroy faster than ever before. We are acting like looters in a library, burning the books to see better in the dark. Some of the wildest theories suggest that the bioluminescence down there isn't just for hunting, it's communication. That the vast network of glowing life forms constitutes a planetary neural network, a hive mind that we are poking with sticks. If the deep ocean is a single coherent organism, how long until it reacts to the infection that is humanity? So we are left with a choice. The Mariana Trench has just shown us that it is not empty. It is full of power, deep power, the kind that changes history. But are we going to treat it like a temple of knowledge or a gas station to be looted? The silence of the deep is gone. The machines are coming. And whatever happens in the next 10 years down there is going to ripple up to the surface and hit every single one of us. The rewrite of global power has begun, and the ink is salt water. We are staring into the abyss. And for the first time in history, we are beginning to realize that something down there is staring back. So here is the question that should keep you up at night. If one nation gains exclusive control over the anti-aging biology found in the trench, do you think they will share it with you? Or will immortality become a state secret? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you want to see more about the ocean's darkest secrets, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.